So we are very lucky to have a really terrific presentation. I'm going to come back to the introductions in a moment. Our own Rob Pugliese from Jefferson and Michael Soileau, one of the most gifted and talented and forward-thinking people at Comcast. But before I come back to that, let me just preview for you a couple of things. Next week we have, and I think I'm going to say her name right, Argna Sahe, who, as you can see, she's the Director of Entrepreneurial Investment in the city of Philadelphia. She's a pretty extraordinary gal. She's out there, you know, going out on a limb every day, trying to lead entrepreneurship in a bureaucracy that's fairly resistant to it. And I worked in city government for 7 years, so I can still feel the black and blue on my head from banging my head against that wall. And she's unintimidated by that, which is awfully helpful if you're going to try to take on institutional change like that. So please, if you have the time, come next week. I don't think you'll be disappointed. A couple of other things that we have tracked up. So who's done Jazz Tank before? Show of hands. Anybody? Robin, you don't count. Robin runs a lot of Jazz Tank, so we don't count her participation. Those of you that have actually participated in as actual entrants. So we have 2 tracks this year, the opportunity track and the business plan track. All of the details are on here. The applications are underway, so you can apply now to be included. I don't know what the latest total is, but Robin, do you know the latest number of applicants?
No, they're rolling in fast and furious.
They're rolling in fast and furiously. But the most significant date relevant to Jazz Tank is that they close on March 24th. So between now and March 24th, take a look at the website, give it some thought, and please think about getting involved. There's a lot of good ideas. The fact that you're sitting in this room tells me that you're thinking complicated things and exciting things and big thinking, moving toward big thinking. So this is a great way to further develop those ideas that you're thinking through. And to celebrate your entrance into Jazz Tank, we urge you to come to our Rock'em Sock'em dance party concert, a dancert. I think that's a new word. I think I just made a new word. So it's a concert fundraiser dance party. It's the Bacon Brothers. Those of you who came last year, you already know what a great party it is. For those of you who haven't come, I urge you to get online, get your tickets. They're incredibly reasonably priced. Just for the record, they're playing the following night in Atlantic City, and the ticket prices there are $75 and $95. So this is an incredible deal, in addition to being just a lot of fun. So I think that summarizes, you know, kind of what we've got tracked up, and we're serious about shaking things up and shaking up what's possible here at Jefferson and in the larger corners of enterprise that we all try to touch on. And so today, along those lines, we have corporate and community engagement conversations with Rob Pugliese and Michael Soileau. Those of you, how many people here know Rob's work? Okay, so Rob has become sort of a part of the Bon Coup fixture world, right? That'd be a fair statement. And he, like so many of us, has multiple roles here. So he's an emergency room pharmacist, but that wouldn't even come close to capturing the extraordinary skills and talents that he brings to bear every day at Jefferson, mostly finding expression in the vault, in JeffDESIGN. And those of you that have worked with Rob know what I'm talking about. So, you know, with Bon Coup, Rob is what can best be described as a happy warrior. He believes deeply in design thinking. And these guys put their money and their time and their talent where their mouth is. And they make it happen. And one of their best and most significant partners is Comcast. Comcast is very, very committed to innovation of all kinds. And Michael Soileau, who is the I might get this wrong, Michael, Vice President for Strategy and Partnerships? That's close enough. Okay. So So Michael has forged a relationship with our Jefferson team, with Bonku and with Rob, and they've been doing some pretty amazing stuff, not only here at Jefferson, but in the larger community. And we're just so proud to have that Comcast relationship finding expression in ways that we never really even imagined. And these guys are the ones that operationalize with them these extraordinary engagements. So, so with that, let me turn it over to our very own Rob Pugliese. And are you going to show video?
We are.
Oh, video time. Yeah. But round of applause, please, for these extraordinary guys.
Michael, come on, get up here. Get up here with me, man. All right. So, thank you so much, Donna. That was really a wonderful introduction. Today we're just going to kick things off with a video because I think it's very powerful and you can learn a lot about kind of what we're doing together by starting off with this, and then we'll get going after that.
I am Rick Bird. I'm 16. I was an honor roll student. I was a very good athlete, and I was a family-oriented person. Last December, I was shot at my C6, and I became a quadriplegic on an event. A lot has changed because I lost mobility in most of my body, and I can't do everyday activities that I used to take for granted every day, such as putting a shirt on, even sitting up by yourself, stuff that you really wouldn't like second guess about, like breathing. Like I can't really breathe anymore. Like stuff that you really wouldn't think about losing in just a matter of seconds. Now my goals are just to get back to my regular routine. I will be returning to school. Like I'm just being how I used to. Like nothing really changed about me, just I lost mobility. My attitude is nothing, it hasn't changed.
For the first half of this course, we were working on developing prosthetic devices using 3D printing technology. Once Larique became a part of the class, the complete energy of the room changed. Suddenly, it wasn't that you were trying to solve a problem for somebody you've never met and somebody you don't know. By having him here, it becomes personal, and that relatability means that you can design a better product.
He can move his hand from this axis, and from the elbow he can move like 360, and he can like just all these directions.
And is it activated by shoulder movement? That's great.
It is very difficult to like change the channel and write and do stuff that I really used to actually enjoy, like play a game. I would like
I'm Michael. I work downtown at the Comcast Center. So a couple things. Firstly, every time I see this video, it just underscores something new for me. And I heard someone say grounded, and how true that is, right? As we all run around in our busy lives, to hear Lurik's story and the fact that this collaboration with Jefferson enabled not just some attention to a need that he specifically had, but just an outpouring of care that he probably hadn't experienced in some period of time. So it's very, very rewarding for us to be able to participate with partners like Jefferson in these kinds of endeavors. Secondly, let me be very clear, we're all kind of Banku's little, family, I guess. I mean, we all work for Banku, it seems, and I know that I do, so thanks for being a good boss. Yeah. It's been a great experience, and so I just kind of wanted to talk about, one, why Comcast is here to begin with, right? So we look at the communities that we serve across the United States, and we really try to identify opportunities to engage in ways that are meaningful and in ways that are meeting the objectives of multiple partners in the community. And we feel that because of our technology and our opportunity to innovate, we have a responsibility to really enjoy that opportunity. So we're really excited about the concepts of idea generation, competitive communities. And by competitive communities, what I mean is there's this whole range of conversation happening in communities today. And it goes from, we want social services that are readily available to our citizens via online activity, all the way to we want to be a smart city, and anything in between. And you can ask any of the mayors we work with, and they all have somewhat of a different definition of what smart cities mean. So we spend a lot of time understanding their definition and their wants and needs, because generally speaking, mine won't match theirs, right? And so that enables this competitive spirit inside these communities that then help them think differently about the way they engage and deliver services to their citizens. One of the things that most excites me about the work we do in this space is the concept of collaboration. While we think our innovation, our technology certainly creates a platform for these kinds of things to happen, we also know that without collaborating with the right partners, none of it can happen. And this has really demonstrated, not just to us, but to the partners we've enjoined, the power of collaboration. The concept of stronger communities. How can we facilitate stronger communities? What does that mean? And again, I could ask probably any of you in here, and the majority would have different answers from the person sitting next to you. But at the end of the day, I think everyone agrees that when the whole of the community is stronger, it's because the parts of the community have been engaged and they are getting some level of interaction as well. And then, the marketplace narrative around what's meaningful to the community and how, in fact, programs are managed and accelerated. So how do we think about unleashing the innovation economy? And that again, means a lot of things to a lot of different people, but to us, we know the best ideas come from people who draw inspiration from the communities around them. Technology leaders, big idea people, people like you in this room, they realize dreams to sort of change the way we live in our communities, change the way we enjoy the properties we live in, change the way we get to the work that we go to or the schools that we attend, change the way buses run up and down the streets. And as a media and technology company, we work to further that innovation economy, to present cities that we serve opportunities to do things a little bit differently. And we build technology infrastructure and human capital. And we'll talk a little bit more about the innovation centers that you see up here. But if you look at the diagram there, it talks about, and I can't even read this slide from here, so I'm going to turn around. So the center is catalyzing innovation, and you see sort of the pillars that we think are important to this. And these surprise a lot of people when I, from Comcast, get up and talk about this. But certainly business makes a lot of sense from a standard corporate experience, right? But when we think about arts, when we think about healthcare, education, the nonprofit community, this goes back to what I just mentioned about when the parts of the community are stronger, the whole of the community is stronger. And we think that and have demonstrated, frankly, that the intersection points between those verticals actually lend to the innovation economy of cities. So when we started, this is a special project that my team started almost 3 years ago, and we started thinking about how do we engage with all of the assets of Comcast. So how do we maximize things like NBC, Universal Films, Telemundo, NBC Sports, the Olympics, Comcast Ventures, Comcast Spectacor, Comcast Cable. How do we take all of those assets and really engage in our communities to help them move further, faster? And one of the things we came up with pretty quickly was we had to, in most instances, design a space where people could come in and do that kind of work with no charge. It's not a membership-driven participation. It's outfitted with all of our technology, all of the best of the new things that we're developing, so that people, our partners, and their constituents could come in and use that to identify and then work towards a solution to the problem that they've identified. So we've created 6 centers to date across the country. You can see that Seattle, Denver, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, the Comcast Collaboration Studio, where people here at Jefferson work so closely with us, Tech Hill Commons in Nashville, and Colorado Springs at the Catalyst. So people always ask me, how did you choose these cities? And the frank answer is there were really identifiers in each of these cities that proved that they were trying desperately to get to that next level around entrepreneurship, smart city applications, the ecosystems surrounding the startup economy. And all of them were looking for a technology partner that could help them actually get on point, but also reach those next levels of success. So in these cities where we've established these brick and mortar facilities, all of them except for the one here in Philadelphia, we've engaged partners to really program with us, but more importantly, run on a day-to-day basis. Because that's not what we want to do. We just want to enable the experience, create the platform, engage the community, bring in the partners, but we're not that expert to kind of run it. Here in Philadelphia, it makes more sense simply because it's our backyard. We have a team that can actually go in and lock the doors for Bon and Rob. I think Rob might have his own key. And we trust Rob generally, so we've got our home security cameras, it's all good. So Philadelphia is just a little bit different, and we're really happy to be able to have that unique opportunity here in Philly. So the Comcast Collaboration Studio, I'll give you just a brief overview. When we were looking for the space, people came to us and said, oh, I have a space at Penn or Drexel or Jefferson even was mentioned. And I said, look, I don't want a space in Center City because I want to work with people outside of Center City. I want Center City folks to come to this location. And so we chose this facility in Kensington. And what happened was, unbeknownst to us at the time, I'd like to be able to say we were smart enough, but it just so happened that the school that we were going to work with via OIC was located just a few blocks away. And in fact, Bon's wife went to school at that grade school, right? So it just made, all of a sudden, it just solidified that we had made the best decision because all these things started coming together. So we leased this space from a company that actually developed an old factory. And one of the things that they did as part of their mission was the retail space that they leased out to companies were actually leased out to nonprofits. And at a rate that was affordable. But equally interesting was that all of the apartments there, if you're a teacher in Philadelphia, you get a discount on your rent. And so they had a very specific mission that really aligned with ours about how to enjoy the community, how to do what's right as much as we can in the community, and play that role that we can as a lead in whatever definition of leadership that we all have to define for ourselves. So our partners, as you can see thus far, has been OIC, obviously Jefferson, Vetri Community Partnership, and Penn. And the interesting thing is Vetri, and what's not up here is the Food Trust. So we started with Jefferson and the Food Trust and really created this collaboration around how do we teach kids the value of nutritional food. But then we realized that these kids had trouble finding the food, firstly. Secondly, getting to those locations safely, because they don't live in neighborhoods that I'm fortunate enough to live in where I don't need to worry about walking one block. And so Rob and Bon worked with epidemiologists from Penn and created a GPS device that the kids then used to locate safe routes to food sources in their neighborhoods, that the Food Trust taught them the value of nutrition, and then we brought in Vetri with those same kids to teach them how to cook. And that was like, these kids have never had that kind of opportunity, and these are life skills that we hope will stick with them for some period of time. And once you actually get to know these kids, it's pretty phenomenal when you see the spark in their eyes. So I can talk about this forever because I get pretty passionate about it, but we'll move on. So here's the collaboration studio and sort of the programming that's happened, and Rob's going to walk you through some of the specifics. But generally speaking, it's promoting health and wellness. It's designing, as you just saw, for disability, advanced health education for the aging, and then healthcare and industrial design. So one of the core tenets that we have at Comcast is really about how do we think about closing the digital divide. And so many people tend to think that might only be kids in grade school and high school. And we know, when we talk about it, that it does affect family members way beyond high school age, and in fact affects seniors that maybe missed that opportunity. And so we spend a lot of time trying to understand, okay, so what is missing from a senior's life skill that would enable them to enjoy the concept of the internet? They don't all want to use it the way I use it, but they definitely want to use it to communicate with family members. They want to be able to research, experiences that they're having, et cetera. So it was a real big eye-opener for us, and we were really excited with the outcome. So that's sort of the work we've been doing with Jefferson and our partners here in Philadelphia and around the country, and I think that Rob will walk you through some really compelling things that Jefferson drove specifically. Thank you. Do you want this?
Yeah, I'll take it. There, Drake. All right, thanks, Michael. That was a really awesome overview really great overview of some of the things that Comcast is doing around the country, and we're very lucky to have them here because we've been able to do some pretty incredible things here as well. So first, I just want to introduce everybody to JeffDESIGN. There might be some people in the room who haven't heard of some of the work we're doing. For those who don't know what we're doing, essentially we're trying to make Philadelphia the healthiest city in America by empowering our students, providers, and patients in the community to promote better health with good design. The core of what we do is we have a co-curricular program at Sidney Kimmel Medical College. We take about 15 to 20 students out of each class, and over their 4 years of medical school, they not only learn to become physicians, they also learn how to become designers. They learn the skills needed to create better systems, better products, and to be basically a more well-rounded, prepared physician for the future. Now, I know you've probably heard the word design thinking one or two times, and just to clarify what's the difference between design and design thinking is a framework or a methodology for creative problem solving. It came out of the Silicon Valley, and it's the reason why we have these beautiful, very functional computers in our pockets is because of good design. So that's the kind of thing that we're trying to bring into healthcare. Donna was really awesome in saying how I have a few different hats that I wear. I think that's true. Yeah, I'm a hat store, yeah. First and foremost, I'm a clinical pharmacist here at Thomas Jefferson Hospital. I specialize in emergency medicine. I'm a clinical assistant professor at the College of Pharmacy. I co-direct JeffDESIGN with Bon. I'm a design thinker. I'm very passionate about it. I think it's powerful, and I think it's going to change the way we provide healthcare. I'm a hacker. The IBX Jefferson Health Hack every year. I'm one of the organizers of that event and the MC as well. And I'm a maker. I developed and direct the Health Design Lab at Jefferson Innovation, which is in the basement of 925 Chestnut Street. We live in the old Federal Bank vault down there. And if you're interested in, if you haven't been down there, come visit. Talk to me a little more after this, and I'd love to talk to you more about the work we're doing down there. So, as you see here, design is really everywhere. And what design does is it helps us translate technology into something that's useful. So without good design, technology is worthless. It is merely a complex device. Without design that translates it into a product that a human can use for something, that is the real power. And unfortunately, I don't think I have to tell anybody here, but healthcare suffers from an overabundance of poor design. In general, people think, all right, poor design, does that mean things don't look nice? And, no, it's not all about aesthetics. Everybody has probably heard of the Eames chair. It's a beautiful, functional thing. But for most of us, really, it's invisible, right? It is not that beautiful piece of equipment. It is the core of all the things that function in our lives. And we really don't even notice it until it doesn't work. So if you just start thinking about it in that way, nearly everything we encounter on a day-to-day basis in healthcare is designed. Everything from our EMR, the bills that our patients receive in the mail, waiting rooms, and even those gowns that everybody hates to wear that are really easy for a physician to do a quick exam on, but for a patient, they just feel like they're exposed. So, gowns were designed for the physician, not so much the patient. So that user focus is really what makes design powerful. This is something that is not necessarily ancient technology, although it should be at this point. And unfortunately, we rely on this device still today to transmit patient information from hospital to hospital. When it was developed, this was probably a pretty amazing piece of design, but by today's standards, probably most people would say it's a pretty poor way of transmitting information. This is probably what people usually think when you're thinking about a well-designed method of presenting and moving information around a healthcare system. But honestly, this is no better than that fax machine if it's not designed to be useful for the person who's going to be using it. If you're the physician on rounds and you're getting this, mix of info that has nothing to do with your patient, this might look beautiful, but it still, could be a lot better. So obviously, we have a lot of complex problems in healthcare. There's no clear solution, and it really requires a lot of innovation. I know we all talk about innovation, but when I talk about information, I think about bringing new people together, new partnerships, because when you bring different people together who've never been in a room before, that's when you come up with these new ways of thinking, and that's the kind of intersection where actual true innovation happens. So to jump into the stuff we've been doing at the Collaboration Studio, our first engagement that Michael was talking about with the Food Trust, OIC, us here at Jefferson and Comcast, was with a great group of partners and with the goal of improving the health of young Philadelphians. So we called it Promoting Health and Wellness with Design, and this is what class looked like. This doesn't really look like, there's no food, there's not the normal classroom, there's stuff everywhere and power tools and crafts. And we brought these kids in from H.A. Brown Middle School in South Kensington, and we wanted to teach them about health and wellness, but we also wanted to bring a little technology and design into that mix. So instructors from the Food Trust came in, and they educated these students on making healthy choices, and they really did an awesome job at it and made it a lot of fun. And then our medical students, actually using their design thinking powers, developed a curriculum that incorporated this idea of making healthy choices with technology and empowerment through learning technology. So they taught them how to code, build, and use these devices that were specifically designed to allow them to take control of their own health. So a couple of the devices we built, one was DIY fitness trackers. The kids actually put the boards together, got the screen running, saw the raw data, what it looks like coming out of those sensors. We also built Arduino-powered GPS trackers, which again, we taught them how to build, they coded it, they put their names on it, we 3D printed cases with them. And all this time, we were teaching them about health. And we were learning from them too, what does it mean to make healthy choices where they live? You know, is it hard? Is it easy? What are they encountering every day? And through the technology, in a sneaky sort of way, you know, we started teaching them, and we were learning from them all these things that, you know, traditionally, you know, they may not have been really too excited to learn about. So of course, once we built them, we got outside, we tested them out, you know, and we brought that data back in, and we taught them what that data meant. What does 3-axis accelerometry data look like? You know, I don't think probably most of the people here might be have some kind of step tracker on them, but did you ever think about, you know, how does that device calculate steps? You know, we did that with them. We taught them a little bit about GIS mapping and the power of that technology when we were having that conversation about safety and, you know, what foods are being advertised to them and how easy is it to make healthy choices realistically in their community. So, I mean, every day I was in there was so incredible to be with these kids because they, you know, Michael had mentioned they're not in a place that they have the most kind of resources available to them, but they were incredibly ready, just and so intelligent to learn anything we threw at them. They were like sponges. So it was really an awesome engagement. It was great watching our med students, you know, design a class unlike anything else that's really ever been taught. It was amazing watching these 4 organizations, these incredible organizations, come together with just the one goal of creating, you know, healthier and better informed citizens. And it was really awesome to watch, you know, those kids come in every day, excited to learn, and leaving empowered to take control of their health and having fun while doing it. So some people might be thinking, all right, this doesn't sound like healthcare. Right? You know, what are we doing? You know, why are we doing this as, you know, I'm a pharmacist, John's a physician, we have med students, you know, what does this have to do with healthcare? And I really do believe that this is healthcare, and this is what the future of healthcare is going to look like. You know, it's going to look like promoting health in the community by supporting people like these exact students right here. So that takes us to our next engagement. You all met Lariq from that video in the beginning of class. And he was part of this class that we called Design for Disability that just wrapped up last semester. This was also at the Comcast Collaboration Studio. And we built this to be an interdisciplinary course that we developed to educate collegiate students on human-centered design that's powered by modern prototyping technology like 3D printing. As you can see, everything has layers in everything we do. You know, there's design, there's technology, there's health. Again, it's essentially a classroom that is realistically like how our lives are every day. Everything is layered, so we want to teach in those layers. So our students, they set out to design customized accessibility solutions using these technologies and with Lariq as part of the conversation. For this program, it was Comcast and Jefferson, along with our partners, of course, our friends and family now at Philadelphia University, 3D printing company Ultimaker, and an open prosthetics foundation called Enable. Now, when I say this class was multidisciplinary, I think it was pretty much an understatement. I don't know if anybody has ever had an industrial designer on their patient care team before, but that's what we were doing here. So we had students from medicine, industrial design, pharmacy, occupational therapy, and most importantly, we had the end user, right? What we were teaching, we had the person who we were learning about creating things for in the room, part of the conversation, part of the experience, and that changed everything. I think that was the really unique thing about what we were doing there. So this thing I'm mentioning about having the user in the room, this is a concept that's becoming more and more popularized, and it's the concept of co-creation. This has been something that's been in the design world for a very long time, and finally we're starting to understand this better in healthcare. We introduced our students to co-creation, which in this case means, you know, developing a solution together with that user or with that patient, and not just for the user. Obviously, in healthcare, all the time we're developing care plans with family, with patients. But a lot of times, there are decisions that are being made without them in the room. And we think that that changes everything when you have that person with you, part of the conversation. I mentioned 3D printing. Obviously, 3D printing is a very powerful tool that democratizes precision manufacturing. It brings, these essentially a manufacturing factory into your home or into wherever you take it. So armed with this tool, caregivers can really create solutions that are customized for a single patient's needs. Now they're awesome looking, it's an exciting technology, right? But learning to use it is really the easy part. I can teach you to 3D print in a couple hours, no problem. What's hard is coming up with a meaningful use for these devices, right? And meaningful only happens, again, when you have the user, when you have the patient in the room as part of that discussion. So we started out this class teaching everybody how to 3D print. Great. We brought in some guest speakers to discuss practical uses, such as 3D printing prosthetic devices in Haiti, essentially bringing the prosthetic factory into the place where it's needed most. And also things like 3D imaging and modeling. As an initial use case to understand kind of the limitations of this tech, we 3D printed functional prosthetic hands, and that's why we worked with the Enable Community Foundation, who helped us identify a young boy named Yusuf, who's from Jordan, who was born without fingers and was in need of a prosthetic device. So our students, we communicated as best we can. There was quite a significant, obviously, a physical divide, but we communicated as best we can to create a number of devices for him and sent them off. And this really gave our students an important insight into how 3D printing can be used kind of functionally in the healthcare space. So for the second half of the course, we brought in Lariq. And as you saw me say in the video, it changed everything. Suddenly everything became more important. We weren't just learning for the sake of learning or for a possible future or a possible, that outcome that might happen. We were doing this for somebody who was there with us, who we knew his story, and we knew personally. So our friends from McGee Rehab actually helped us find him, and he was the perfect person for this. He was such a bright kid who really just wanted to, teach everybody about what it means to live with paraplegia. He wants to bring more kind of advocacy and more attention to it. So we grouped our students into these design teams with an industrial designer and a medicine student or a pharmacy student, which all three you see here. And together with Lariq, they worked to design these solutions that were kind of inspired by his needs. So one of the things, he's a poet, he loves writing. He wanted to be able to write again with a pen on paper. He didn't want to have to type for the rest of his life. And luckily, he did have some function of one of his hands, so our students developed some tools to help him do that. He wanted to get back to school. He had been out for almost a year at this point, and that was one of the things he just could not wait to get back there. And just like any other teenager, he wanted to play games. So we figured out, we came up with some ways for him to be able to do that as well. So on the final day of class, our teams presented out their solutions to everybody. We had an awesome team come from the Comcast Accessibility Lab to help judge as well. To give you a couple examples of what our students came up with, this is an arm rocker remote, something that's never been designed before. It would allow somebody with kind of no finger dexterity to control a device just by shifting their arm around. Because a lot of times you might have, you may not have finger movement, but you might have some shoulder and some elbow movement. I think this was a really beautiful design. Another prototype was really awesome. This actually was inspired by those 3D printed hands that we started the class with. They said, what if we took this kind of function and made a glove that would augment Lariq's grip strength? So that now it would be potentially more likely that he can actually hold a pencil in his hand again. And then one of the favorites, because it was just so kind of functional, was one of the student teams decided to crack open a Wiimote, like a Wii controller. They cracked it open, they soldered buttons to the inside of it to externalize these buttons and mount them into Lariq's headrest. Then they made a Velcro glove so that he can hold the Wiimote easily in his hand. And now they essentially just created this was just a couple med students and an industrial design student, made a whole new functional way for him to play video games. You didn't have to be an engineer, essentially, to do something that powerful. So again, this was another amazing experience for everybody. It was really awesome to watch these students in such a diverse group work so intimately with a patient. And for many of our students who were, junior medical students, this was and also the industrial design students, the other students, this was their first chance to work one-on-one with a patient and to learn, how to communicate and what somebody's needs are. So again, building those skills that's gonna allow them to be even better clinicians in the future. And I'll say it again, this sounds like a crazy thing, 3D printing, design, Wiimotes, but again, this is healthcare. This is important. These things were incredibly meaningful for this one person. This experience was incredibly meaningful for all of the students and people involved. And this will lead to better care. So in the true spirit of meaningful collaboration, one of the awesome things of working with Comcast and their whole team is that Tom and his team from the accessibility lab were so excited about these things that our students developed. They said, we want you to come to our lab. So we brought everybody into the accessibility lab. And they were so psyched about it that they invited our students to join them for Comcast Lab Week, which is essentially their hackathon where all of their teams have a week to work on whatever they want to develop new products. So we're really excited that our students are going to be heading to Comcast Lab Week, and it's a possibility that some of these might continue to move forward into fully realized products. So right now we're running our another really exciting program titled Healthcare and Industrial Design. Again, this time we're collaborating with Comcast's Connected Health team, and what we're doing is we're making these design teams again with medical students, occupational therapy students from Jefferson, and industrial design students from Philadelphia University, and we're sending them into the system. So we have about 11 teams, and we have inserted them throughout Jefferson Health, from our outpatient clinics to our ICUs, to our therapy areas, to the emergency department. And they're interviewing practitioners and patients and trying to find out what can be better. What is that pain point that you experience every day, and how can we design something better? So I think this is going to be a really exciting model for kind of pulling these ideas out from the front lines where people experience them every day and trying to solve them with a new way of thinking, and this exciting partnership with Comcast and their team. One of the nice things about the collaboration studio, well, it's in the perfect kind of middle ground. Michael mentioned he didn't want it to be in Center City. He wanted it to be out in the community, and that's perfect for us. When we're working with our colleagues from Philadelphia University, and then we're coming in as well, it's the perfect kind of middle ground for us all to come together there in kind of a new environment that is different and built for these kinds of experiences, and again, thinking differently. So it really has been an honor to work with Michael and his team and fostering these innovative programs. And I really do feel that the more unique collaborations like this that we can have, and all of the exciting things that are happening around Jefferson and Philadelphia University right now, we just had Dr. Spinelli, the president of PhilAU, here last week, and I left so energized at what the future looks like when we think differently and we combine our talents in new and exciting ways. And I think with the support of all of these organizations together, we really can do something incredible. And I know Michael and I are just coming off of a trip to South by Southwest, where the Philadelphia delegation had 250 people there, including the mayor representing Philadelphia. And it was incredibly inspiring that how many people are doing these unique things here. And oftentimes you don't even realize you're doing something amazing until you look elsewhere and you realize, wow, we really are pretty great. So, I'm really, really inspired and really positive about the future. And, I'm really lucky to be partnered with people like Comcast and also our innovation team. So thank you, Michael. Thank you, Donna, and your team as well. And I just want to close off with this. This is a picture of Yusuf. I just got this about a week ago. He loves his hands. He has some suggestions for things we can improve, which is important, and we will be doing so. So, you know, every day when we're coming up with these crazy ideas and working these kind of crazy hours, all I think about is that, and I keep going. So thank you, everybody, for being here, and go forth and innovate. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Michael and Rob for that wonderful and inspirational presentation. We certainly have some time for questions for our guests. So we have a mic we can walk around the room with, and be happy to take some questions. And then if anybody from our streaming audience has sent in any questions, why don't we bring them down to the front and we'll deliver those too. Yeah, so one question I have, maybe to start, in the interest of interprofessional education and training, how might some of our other students who are here, we have students and postdocs in the audience, how might they go about contacting you and getting involved and bringing you know, their interests and ideas and opportunities to join the group?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now that we have a beautiful home in the design lab, I encourage you to reach out to me, come down to the lab, and we'd love to, you know, the more points of view, the more kind of diverse experiences we bring into these programs, the better. So, you know, we're always coming up with new and exciting projects and programs that we can involve others, you know, you guys in as well. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, he was.
Go ahead.
So one example of that was we had a postdoc from molecular bio, I think so. One of our molecular bio students came down and he was picking up a package in the mailroom, which is who's our neighbors downstairs. And he said, "What are you guys doing down here? This is pretty cool. Is that a 3D printer?" So he was kind of like a 3D printer dork like me. So he immediately saw a 3D printer and he was like, "Oh, what is that?" So he said, "You know, we're actually learning right now about HIV envelope proteins, and could you 3D print some for us?" I said, "Absolutely." So we, you know, downloaded some open source structures from the NIH 3D Print Exchange and printed a couple out, and he's picking them up tomorrow to use in their kind of lab studies. So those are the kinds of things that we're always open to new ideas, and you know, we have some great tech down there and some great experienced people down there too who can help develop those.
That's a great example. Thanks so much, Bon, for reminding us of that. Other questions for our guests? How many of you, is there anybody here who's already been participating in JeffDESIGN or any of these programs? I thought there might be. Would anybody care to, not to put you on the spot, would anybody care to share just a moment of your experience and perhaps what it's meant for you to be engaged in these exciting opportunities? Don't all jump in at once. Here you go.
Hi, I'm George Hanna. I'm a first-year medical student, and I'm part of JeffDESIGN. Something that definitely this design program has just totally changed my way of thinking about everything. I've always tried to find like better ways to do things in my everyday life, but something that our design thinking mentality that was taught to us on our orientation, it really brought together like the different and individual steps that I can personally take in order to come up with new innovations that I never thought possible. A lot of times I would just see someone walking down the street and saying, well, that looks a little bit off, like maybe they can you know, like transport something that they're carrying or something like that a little bit better. But it's taking that step back and talking about what their individual problem is, and then going into exactly different ways that we can fix that problem, and maybe coming up with, instead of jumping to conclusions and like what I can put directly into their hand to help them do what they're doing right now better, coming up with a broader range of solutions, and even in that thinking mentality, going to something that applying that to something that you may not have originally thought about in your original design idea. It's just that type of thinking, that open up mind. I have a little book that I just am continually writing down new ideas, and it's something that's been so beneficial to my thinking of everyday life. It's really great.
If we gave grades, you'd get bonus points.
Consider it done. Any other questions or comments? Any experiences anybody would like to share? That's a wonderful example. It's exactly why we want to certainly. It's why it's so important for Michael and Rob to have been here today to really spread the word about these exciting opportunities. The example of a molecular biology postdoctoral fellow is spot on. You know, to Rob's point of, as he asked us several times in the presentation, is this healthcare? It sure is. And so many other examples of you know, health being all we do means so much more than meets the eye at first. And so there are tremendous opportunities for everybody to become engaged. And I think we've seen some just fantastic examples of those today. So Rob or Mike, anything else you wanted to add at this point?
I hope you guys recognize and feel that you're on not just the edge, but the cutting edge of something significant here at Jefferson in Philadelphia. And when you go around the country, as I do, and I talk about this program that you're doing, people's jaws are dropping. And I know people have reached out to Bond to discuss it because you guys did it first. And so, you know, I applaud you, and it makes me very, very proud that you're here in Philadelphia. So congrats, and again, thanks.
All right, well, thank you again, Michael and Rob. Thank you so much. And thanks, everybody, for joining us today. We welcome you back for next week and the rest of our program. And don't forget about Jazz Tank and lots of opportunities to become engaged. Thanks again.